Support for the Couples Council comes from Mercier Wellness and Consulting. Their purpose is to equip you with the right skills for a happy and healthy relationship. Services available in office or virtual. Schedule your consultations now. For more information, visit mercierwellness.com. Mercier Wellness and Consulting. Small steps, big changes.
This podcast is not a substitute for therapy. Please consult a licensed professional for your mental health needs. Now on with the show.
Hello and welcome to the Couples Council. I am Dr. Jameson Mercier, the Love Mender, your host, sitting alongside my wife, Herdyne Mercier, the wife mentor.
I'm super excited about today's episode, honey. I don't even want to wait a second.
And why is that?
Because it's so good. You know, I love love. I love everything about love. And the couple that we're interviewing today is going to be married 25 years on February the 5th.
After 25 years, these guys are still in love. They're still madly crazy about each other. You'll get a sense of that from the episode. And what's even more impressive is that they've known each other their whole lives.
I mean, like going back to kindergarten.
Yeah. We're talking about Doran and Joan Francis. They are the founders of After We Say I Do. And you'll hear the story about how their project got started, which is often something that, you know, as counselors, we say, well, what about the after I do, right? And couples often wonder if they should after the wedding. Okay, then what? Well, that's what they are all about. Okay, after we say I do, they focus on that part,
which is the crucial part.
So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Doran and Joan Francis of After We Say I Do. Enjoy. So today we are being joined by Doran and his beautiful wife. You guys should see. She's with her pearls and she's you know, I'm afraid not to say too much, but I know we have two beautiful women. Right. We're joined by him and his wife, Joan. They are the founders of After We Say I Do. Now, this is something that jumped out at us, jumped out at Herdyne.
Yes.
We have this kind of conversation all the time. You know, people prepare for the marriage, but then after everyone's gone home, you've changed out of your tuxedo, out of the wedding dress. Now what? Yes. And so today's interview, today's conversation are from some people who've been in the game much longer than we have.
Yes.
You know, so we're looking to learn some things in particular about After We Say I Do. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the Couples Council.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
How are you guys doing today?
We're doing great, actually.
Yes, good. I am. It's always a pleasure to be with my wife. Anytime she's with me, I'm all smiles. So yes, I am doing absolutely great.
Good. So let's just jump into it, right? So tell us about you guys. The little bit that I know that you guys have been together a long time, but people who are listening. they don't know that. So tell us about Doran and Joan.
Okay, I talk a little about me. I'm sure my wife will talk about herself. Well, I'm Doran. I am married to the most amazing, the most phenomenal, the most fantastic, the most beautiful, gorgeous lady on the planet, my wife of 24 years.
You're making me blush.
we were both born and raised in the beautiful island of Jamaica. That's where we're from. We have known each other for pretty much all our lives. We've been since 5 years old, to be honest with you, preschool, kindergarten, elementary, you know, junior high school and high school. Yeah. So it's been a long haul. Yeah. She has been my best friend. She still is.
Yes.
And, you know, she used to talk to me about boys that she liked. I used to talk to her about girls that I like. And then when she turned 17 years old, I saw this beautiful, gorgeous lady start to unfold right in front of my eyes. And I didn't see her as that kind of person anymore. I started to pursue her as a love interest. And And, she said no for 1 year. And
Wow.
being a man that knows what I want and what I'm looking for, and seeing the quality that she has, the characteristics and the core value based on her background and her upbringing, I just felt like she was the one. And eventually her no turned into yes. And yeah, and we're here, 24 years later. She's still driving me crazy. I'm still fired up. I'm still fired up about her, and crazy in a good way,
Good.
And so definitely, we're both Christians. As a matter of fact, we got baptized in the same baptismal service.
Yep.
We got same convention. So we pretty much known each other all our lives. Yeah.
Wow.
See, honey, you got some way to go. With driving you crazy. You just got 11 years of me driving you crazy. So you got a couple more.
Eternity, right?
Yeah. So, same story as you all know it. But when I think about our story, I think that, God always has a plan. Mm-hmm. And I feel like from the beginning, we were meant to be together. And every day I thank God for the man that he has put into my life, because, you come together as a couple, husband and wife, but when you're joined together as two separate individuals. And it's good to have someone to the opposite of what you are, to level you out, to make sure that, if he's this way, you're another way, so you can, kind of guide each other. We have a very stable relationship, and it wasn't easy, and it wasn't always the way it is now. But, you got to go through some stuff. Mm-hmm. You got to go through some stuff to get where you want to go. But, as he said, he chased me for a while, and for a whole year or even more. I said no, and he didn't give up.
What was your reason for saying no? I'm just curious.
Well, the way I was brought up, I didn't know a lot about relationships. Mm-hmm. I didn't have the birds and the bees talk from my parents.
Okay.
They would say stuff like, don't let any boys touch you, as though if a boy touch you, you're going to get pregnant. So you hear these things and you try to stay away from boys. Mm-hmm. And then, we were in the church and, believing in the Bible and, marriage before sex and all these things. So I was brought up a little sheltered, but at the same time, I had my own values that I wanted to stick with. And so I said no for a while. And then, it kind of grew on me a little bit. I'm like, why does this guy keep chasing me? Why is he chasing me? Mm-hmm. And then I said, let me give it a shot and see where it goes. We're still young, so we just consider it friendship. Okay. It wasn't at first like boyfriend and girlfriend. We just friends. We became best friends before we were boyfriend and girlfriends. So, it kind of worked that way until, he started telling me he loved me, and I felt like that was pressure for me. Because here we are friends. So why are you saying that you love me? And then I started staying away a little bit, because I felt like what I said to him was, you want to break up such a strong friendship for a relationship. And at the same time trying to figure out myself, because I didn't know what I was doing.
So at this point, you guys were how old?
We were 17 turning 18.
Yeah, 17, 18.
Yeah.
Okay, and he's telling you he loves you after.
He loves me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that for me was
scary.
It was very scary, and I keep backing away, and after a while I said, you know what? I'm going to give it a try. So we started, looking at each other as more of a boyfriend, girlfriend situation. Yep. And we know we're in the church, so there are certain things that we don't do. Most of the times that we're together, we're with other people. We have chaperones. Mm-hmm. Not intentional, but we're always around other young people and stuff like that, which kind of helped me a lot. And then it was shortly after we started dating that, his parents was living abroad. So, paperwork was done. And then all of a sudden, Doran is going to New York. And I'm like, where does that leave me?
Mm.
So, when he told me that, I said, oh, okay, so I guess that's it, because you're going to go to New York and you're going to see all these pretty girls that I hear about, and you're going to forget about me. And
Oh, yeah.
he
Yeah.
he really reassured me that that was not going to happen. And for a while, I didn't believe it.
No, she
But
didn't.
then we kept in touch. Back then, they didn't have cell phones, so we wrote to each other a lot, and he has the proof of the letters.
So wait a minute. So hold on. You guys are kind of moving too fast.
Okay.
I'm not
Yeah.
that smart. I'm not that fast. Y'all gonna have to help me out. So what was it like when the day came for him to leave? Because you're talking like he was fine. And, I know with us, I think when I went away for 2 weeks, knowing I'm coming back, it was a mess.
Yeah, it was
hard.
We were both messes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was devastating for both of us.
It was.
We both. Did you cry too?
Well, I didn't cry, but
I cried.
I was very emotional because, I went to her house to actually
say goodbye.
And at that time, our relationship was in the embryo stage. It was just start to
like 8 months
develop into something special.
Yeah.
And so I personally didn't really want to go, but I had to because it was the right thing to do.
Right.
And secondly, she was all, crying and she was just overwhelmed about the fact that I was going to leave, and she said that all the beautiful girls that it's in New York City.
Yeah, just like coming to America.
There you go. And but anyway, I assured her that listen, I will love you. I will always love you. I will always come back and marry you. And we actually departed at that particular time. And then we started to write letter. Back in 1989, there was no cell phone. There was no email. There was no live chat. There was no video chat. There was no WhatsApp. There was none of that stuff. No Zoom and nothing. So we wrote a lot of letters. And these are some of the letters that I kept them. I kept them as a way to just show people when we do a mentorship, when we talk to singles, we talk to them about if you meet the right person, long distance relationship can work. And so, and the first letter she wrote me, I still have it. It's over 29 years ago that she wrote me that letter.
Taped together. And
yeah, this letter was actually the letter that
was the first one.
This was the first letter that she sent me to prove or to express to me what she was looking for in a mate. And the kind of man that you would love to marry. And I use this letter as a guide to become that person. And 28 years. Well, actually, it was written 1989, April the 10th, 1989. And I still have this letter here. And so
if you look real clearly, you can see like a teardrop.
Cut it out. That's not a teardrop. Don't. That was not a teardrop at all. I don't know how he got there.
In April of 1989, just to give you some context and perspective.
Yeah.
I was 7 years old.
What?
And I had, and I had just come from Haiti the month before as a 7-year-old kid.
Wow.
Right. And so
you make us really old.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Y'all might have been 10, 15 years older than us, But I say that to just whenever I hear of people in their lives, right?
Absolutely.
Totally unrelated. What's going on for you in this particular moment,
right?
Somebody else is having just as impactful a heavy moment as well.
Wow.
And then I have the same feeling, again, totally unrelated. When I travel and you go to the airport, everyone's going somewhere, doing something.
Yes.
Just as heavy, just as emotional, just as major in their life.
And Joan, I totally understand the tears because I'm thinking about he's just not, you just didn't date him. You had a friendship probably since you were in kindergarten.
Yes, we did.
Here it is. You probably already saw some qualities that he had. A potential husband, and here he goes and saying, I'm heading to New York with all the other pretty women.
Yeah. And you know what I also understand now, with travel and immigration and parents abroad,
Mm-hmm.
when papers are approved, you know, I know with other people, when they come, you go. I don't know that you had time where you can build, or if you had advance notice that you were going to be leaving. How much lead time did you have?
Well, normally they give you, I think, about like 90 days after the documents is approved by the embassy.
So you had those 3 months.
So we have about like 3 months in order for us to leave.
And also during that time, I think he was supposed to leave in April, and June. No, you were supposed to leave April.
Yeah.
June was my high school graduation.
Mm.
So he kind of pushed back the travel date so he could stay for my graduation. Remember that?
I was showing her even then that I have that quality.
That's what I'm saying.
You know,
and
like,
then I'm saying, as a 17, 18-year-old, like, where did this come from for you?
You know what? Actually, I think it's really a long story. I was not really raised with my father. I was my mother was pretty much most of her life she's been a single mom. You know, you have those good women that always give men a chance, but unfortunately they always pick the wrong one. She seems to have that issue, and but she was a great mother, awesome woman of God. And so when I became a Christian at 16 years old, I promised God and I told myself, number one, I don't want to have kids out of wedlock. Number two, if I ever get married, I want to be the best father and be the best husband that I can be. And I think also having male role model around me, it helps to build me up and make me become the man that I am today. I must say that who we are is based on our past, but the man or the woman that we become, it's always based on us. So instead of me making excuses, I use my past as an example and make a decision to not become that. And I think at the young age, I have shown her that I have that quality. And I think that's what solidified and closed the deal, you know.
Not only that, you showed her that you are a man of your word.
Absolutely.
What comes out of your mouth, you breathe to life.
Yes.
And I think that is very important in every situation. When you talk to couples who are dating, I always say, don't just hear what they say. Their action is going to bring to life.
Yes.
That's true.
Yes.
Their action. So look at the action. Is it matching up what's coming out of their mouth? And in your example, it was really matching up. Everything was gelling together. So how long? Because I'm thinking, did you fly back and forth? Did she come eventually to the States? What happened?
Well, yes. I left Jamaica in 1989, and I used to go back to Jamaica to spend Christmas holidays because I still have family members that live there. You know, our parents are still living there. They're very successful, but my parents moved here, but her parents pretty much are based in Jamaica. So I used to go back for Christmas. And when I would go back, I would get to see her, and she'd think that I'm just this different dude now, you know, that kind of little skinny guy.
Oh, because you the first year you came back, you totally looked different.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is.
Well, it's the cold weather. It's the cold weather.
That's exactly what it is, Jameson. Because I mean, think about it. Jamaica,
who's this dude?
Jamaica it's 95-degree weather, like, or 85 average in most days.
All the time.
Yeah, so you know, coming to New York City, it was actually in the winter time. You know, when we went back, so I was a little bit. My complexion kind of cleared up a little bit. So, you know, she think I was more sexy, more handsome. She didn't want to say it, but I know she was thinking it.
That's all right.
You know, and I kind of lost my Jamaican accent a little bit.
Yeah,
What's up, man? Yeah, man.
Sounded
You know,
different too. It was scary for me.
so I kind of sounded a little bit different. So she was looking at me like, you some strange dude. What happened to the Doran that left Jamaica? So we keep going back and forth. I keep traveling and visiting. And then I think it was in 2000, actually, no, in 1994, my mother said to me, son, what are you going to do with that young lady in Jamaica? You keep going back, you visit her all the time. Are you planning on marrying her? And I was like, sure, Mom, I'm going to marry her. And then she sat me down and she told me exactly what to do, how to save the money for the wedding. And I did that. And then in 1995, actually in 94,
Mhm.
I went to Jamaica and I actually proposed to her. And I met with her parents and told them that, hey, listen, I love your daughter. She's a fine, gorgeous young lady, and I've
Mhm.
known her all my life. And this is a woman that I want to make my wife. And they were pretty much a little bit concerned about it, if I was qualified or capable to
Mm-hmm.
really take on that responsibility as a husband. But I think I was making preparation,
Yeah.
in the process.
They were probably thinking we were too young
Yeah,
too.
I think
Mm-hmm.
so. And
Well,
and
how
then
old were you guys at that time?
I was 23 and she was 22.
22.
Okay.
Yeah. So, in 1995, we got married. And I think after we got married, I think it was about like 7 or 8 months after that, she came to the state. So we're separated after marriage for about like,
It was almost a year
it
actually.
was almost a year.
Yeah, we got
Okay.
married
Wow.
in
February.
February.
Mm-hmm.
And talking back and forth, I was working, and he said to
Oh yeah,
me,
you're right. Go ahead.
he was about to start doing the paperwork and stuff to get me here. And he said to me, why don't you go to the embassy and try to get a visa and visit me? And after that visit in 96 January,
Mm-hmm.
I never went back. That
Wow.
was it.
She got the
So-
visa, and
So we
because
just got, I got the visa,
I just
came
did,
here,
I did the paperwork
and
here.
then, he was advised how to do the paperwork with me being here and not having to go back.
Okay.
So,
And
so
you've
that's
been
what
to,
we did.
and
Oh.
you've been together ever since. And so February you'll be celebrating 25 years.
25
Yes.
years of marriage, and we
25.
are still fired up. The sex is still good. I mean,
Yes.
and I know we're probably going to get to that later, but I am
Trying to
I
open up a
I
bag
am
of worms.
I'm actually excited when I do talk about her, because a lot of people look at the years that we have spent together. We have known each other, and they equate it to a successful marriage. But I always impress upon them that, what, it helps our friendship. It did, because I believe that whether you meet someone for 1 month and then decide to become husband and wife, or you've been dating for 3 years or 2 years or 1 year, I believe that somewhere along the line there has to be compatibility. There has to be something that draw you to that person.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where friendship comes in. And so the friendship helps to to build us and draw us closer. But I think we had to do the sweat equity. We had to put in the work in order for us to still be sitting here at almost 25 years later.
Yeah.
To
And
make,
when you say work for your relationship, what type of work have you all had to put in to keep it so fresh and vibrant?
A lot of people think that you get married and that's just it. When we say work, we're referring to the time spent, the time invested in building the relationship. Like, you have to get to know each other. What works for this one might not work for you, and you have to figure out, what are the different methods to use in order to make the relationship work. Does she like pancakes, eggs with her pancakes, or does she like to sleep on the right or the left side of the bed? These little things to us matters. It might not matter to a lot of people. And I think the most important thing in the relationship is God. You have to have a relationship with God. And it's like you have this friendship with your spouse, but you also have a friend in God. And you know that if something is not working in your marriage, you have this other person that you can talk to. Ask for help, ask for advice, ask for instruction, ask them to show you the way, whether it's through reading the word or through prayer or something.
Counseling.
But counseling. But it's a lot of different pieces that comes with a marriage.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And a lot of people think it's like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not serious. They're thinking it's not serious, but marriage is very serious. It is a very serious thing. And I think a lot of people get into it and think it's a game. It's not a game.
No, it's definitely
really not a game.
No. I tell couples often when I see them, I said, it's the hardest thing that you think you want to do. Right? You think you want to do it now. You won't know till after you're in it.
Yes.
Exactly.
And then what do you do? right?
Mhm.
That's correct.
In in past, conversations with Herdyne, when we have had past disagreements, I will say to her, I'll say, babe, listen, I did not marry you to fight you. And so I said, I'll just go pray about it. I'm going to go tell on you.
I like that. I like
That's
that.
what I'm talking
I
about.
like
You have
that.
this other friend.
I like that.
And I
I
would
like
come
that.
back. Stop talking to God. Leave me alone. 'Cause I want to be mad for another 3
Yeah.
days.
Oh, that's her. That's her. Our conflict is my conflict is over in a minute, and for her, it's can I just go through the process?
Well, it's not just me. It's just a female thing, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
I'm
It's a female
high-fiving.
thing. It's a female thing.
I say, I'm not going to argue with you because,
Yes.
you were a gift to me. And
Mhm.
so if the gift is, quote unquote, if it's not working, right, I'm not going to be upset with the gift. I'm going to go give it back to the
giver.
creator. Exactly.
Wow.
You
I
know?
love that.
So
love
that's,
that.
that saves us a lot
I love that.
of disagreements.
Yep.
But I also think that for us to be able to stay married and stay connected and still be on the cutting edge in terms of our relationship, it's a lot of different variables, as my wife said. But I think a few key points that I would like to bring out to your audience is this: that I think we begin to realize that we can't ask of marriage what it was not designed to give. And initially, that's what we were doing. I wanted to turn my wife into the woman that she didn't want to be. She's very conservative, and I want her to be up and going like me, and I want her to meet all my friends. I want her to talk to everybody. I want her to, be very be an extrovert. And my wife, she's very smart, very intelligent, very confident, but she wants to do it in her own pace. I'm the kind of guy that when I walk in the party, I walk into the room, I want people to know I'm there. Like, hey, I'm here now. Let's do this. For her, it's like, slow down, slow your roll, And so initially I started to do that. Why can't you be this way? Why can't you be that way? And she was like, well, I'm not that way. I can't be something that you want me to be. And I realized that we were actually it becomes a conflict because of, and instead of me leading her, I was bossing her. And that was not the way to build a successful marriage. Right. And so it never works. And so I had to go back to the drawing board and go back to the Creator God and start to read more about understanding my wife. And the Spirit of God brought me into Ephesians chapter 5. And I read the whole entire chapter, and that's when it came together for me. When the Bible said, husband, love your wife as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it, I realized that my job is not to change my wife. My responsibility is just to love her. That's it.
Amen.
And then I called her and I was like, babe, I got it. And she was like, what do you got? I was like, I figured it out. She said, what do you figure out? I said, I figure out how to make my marriage work. And she was like, what are you talking about? Your lady give us that side look like, and I was like, yeah, I figured it out, honey. And she was like, what do you figure out? I said, I figured it out. I said, my job is not to make you happy. My job is to add value to your life. You're supposed to find happiness within yourself, happiness in what you're doing, happiness in your accomplishment. And my job is to supplement that happiness by loving you, by honoring you, by taking care of you, by adding value to your lives. And the moment I begin to express that, it was like, she was able to become naked and not ashamed. Like her vulnerability, she was not protecting herself. She was not guarded anymore. Right. And I proved to her that this is how God intended for it to be. And that's what we teach couples now. 25 years later, we check the pulse of our marriage. Check the pulse every month. We go out, we sit down over coffee, dinner, brunch, or go to the movies, and we just talk about stuff. So, baby, was everything okay? I'm treating you right. How was your sex? Everything's good.
Great.
How's the boys doing?
Oh, they're doing fine.
What about your last doctor visit? What was the result? How was the result? Everything's fine.
Yes.
And we talk about finances, how's the money, everything's good.
Yeah.
We just talk about stuff like that. And this is what we do to keep the fire. And trust me, my wife is very, very outspoken. If something is wrong, first I'm going to get the attitude, and then I'm going to get the... Yeah, Germans you can relate to that, right?
Yes.
I first get the attitude, and then I'm going to hear a voice. And so, yeah, I begin to understand her pattern, and we learn each other pattern, and that's what makes us live now
Mhm.
in this era where most people are looking for ways to get out of marriage. We're looking for ways to enhance
To
ours.
stay in it.
Good. And I think that's easier done because that foundation that you guys
Correct.
Right, right.
Yes,
established
absolutely.
was, over 20 years, over a lifetime, essentially.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
that helps. And so I guess it's easy then to transfer all of that knowledge and experience into the work that you guys do together.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I wanted to know what you are the founders of After We Say I Do. Who
Uh-huh.
came up with it and
Oh,
why?
okay.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Why?
How
Why?
did
Did
that
that come about?
The mind behind the name.
Yeah, actually,
Actually,
hmm?
no, actually, I had a few names, and
We had a few names.
Mm-hmm.
How it came about? This is really crazy, right? Because I grew up with five sisters. I'm the only brother among five sisters, right? So I've been listening to, women talk about relationship and all this. All my life, I've been listening to women because my five sisters would talk to me about, their problems and so forth. But I never really see myself really doing this. But I always wanted to write a book about marriage because
Mhm.
I am really passionate about marriage, and I always wanted to write a book about just regular relationship. And so I came up with this idea one day. I've been talking about writing a book for the longest, and I talked to my wife about it. And I think it was in 2015. I keep on talking about this book, and she just got so angry. Not angry, but she was frustrated.
Mhm.
Attitude again.
stop
And
talking already
and
and
she
just
said,
write the
just
book.
stop talking already and just write the book. And
Mhm.
literally, I picked up my computer from upstairs, and I bring it down here where we're sitting right now in my office area, and I just started to write. And about like 6 months after that, I gave birth to Built to Last: Successful Marriage and Relationship. So I
Mm.
wrote the book, and I self-published the book. And after publishing it and promoting it, it just started to pick up steam. People started to read the book, and we started getting email. People wanted us to be on their radio program, on their
Mhm.
internet blog,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and social blog, and I said, okay, well, we start together a following. I need to get a name so that people can identify who we are. It can be a brand. It can be something that people can relate to. And then we started to talk about, I wanted to do Marriage Built to Last, but that
Mhm.
was already taken. Somebody
Mhm.
already had that. I don't think it was copyright, but I think they trademarked it or
Mhm.
something like that, or the website was already taken. I mean, the domain name was already taken.
Mhm.
And then I did Happily Married, that was already taken. And then I'm like, oh my God, these are all gone. And then I just put in After We Say I Do. And I was like, After We Say I Do. Okay, that's kind of strange. And I was like, babe, I think I got something. What do you think? And I shoot it by her, and she said, oh, I kind of like that too. And I was like, okay, After We Say I Do. And it just kind of stick. And then I started to just use a hashtag. I bought the domain name, didn't develop a site or anything, didn't talk about it, but I just started to just do posts and just put in the hashtag After We Say I Do. And then people start to use it. And then I start to realize that when I put it in search, it starts to come up. And then I decided to just start the website. And then from there, here we are. Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
So as a minister or reverend, this is part of the work that you do when you work with couples.
Correct.
So do you guys do this together? I know the workshops probably are together.
Mhm.
How do you guys do the work you do with couples? If you can talk about that.
We actually do it together when we have counseling with
Mhm.
couples, because I think it's essential. You have a wife and husband, so it doesn't work to just have a husband counseling wife and husband.
Mhm.
The female actually needs support as well. So for my husband, like, his schedule is different. We have different schedules, and most of the times he's more available. So when he's online, when he does Facebook and Instagram, you will mostly see him, but I'm there as well sometimes. But when we're counseling couples, I make it my duty to try and be there so I can be a form of support to the wife.
Yes. And we also are mindful of the reality that 90% of the people that reach out to us for counseling are female.
This
You
is
know,
true.
unfortunately, uh, most of the issues may not necessarily the men or the husband fault, but I think 90% of the time, uh, sad to say, but that's the story. And as we start to do intake and start to analyze information and process information and put their story or their timeline under the microscope to figure out exactly what's happening, where, when, who, and what, why, we start to realize that it's often the guy or the person that don't want counseling that are creating the most negative impact in the relationship. So when a husband reach out to me for counseling, like today, I was on a live video chat on Periscope, and a guy just asked, how can I connect with you? You know, I'm going through some marital problems right now, and I would love to talk to you. I would love to hear what you have to say. You know, I've been watching you for a while, and I think that you have some sound biblical and practical and relevant information that I could use. And I was like, great, man, listen, reach out anytime you want. And so I think that, you know, it's good to create balance. You know, when wives see my wife, they feel more comfortable, even though I often set them at ease. I let them, you know, feel comfortable. We do maybe like 15 minutes of just getting to know each other, you know, with virtual and online, you know, counseling session. Now we don't necessarily have to be on location, just like how you guys are in Florida, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and we're in New York City, but by way of, you know, web conference, we're able to meet like this. We have counts of people in Malaysia, Germany, Australia, all states, 50 states all over the place, Jamaica, and so we have seen how with them seeing my wife and I together, they often, it elevates their expectation.
Yeah, it makes a difference.
Yeah,
Makes a difference.
absolutely, it does.
What I mean, I have my own opinions. What do you suppose is the reason why you say some of the men are having a lot of these issues when it comes to marriage and relationships? What's your thoughts on that?
I'm going to speak and then my wife can chime in. I think a lot of it has to do with the social and the economical, you know, upbringing. I believe that we're now living in a culture where the father is absent from the home.
True.
And the truth is, and I'm not against women's rights. I'm not against Me Too movement. And for those that are listening, I just want to make the record straight that I have a wife, I have niece, I have cousins, I have 5 sisters. So I am for women have equal rights. They can make all the money they want to make, be the CEO that you want to make, that you want to be, and build your enterprise. But I think when we have a culture where it seems like it's an anti-male society, where the men feel emasculated, they feel minimized, they feel criticized. And so we see that most single women are raising men. And there's the disparity, or there's a gap where the male that is being raised now don't have that role model to really help them to become a man. See, a man is not born, a man is developed. The Bible says in 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 11 that when I was a child, I spoke as a child, I understood as a child, but when I become a man, I put away childish things. And the reality is that what we're seeing in our culture today is that you have a lot of male, but you don't have man. Man is a character.
Correct.
And that has to be developed. And so you will have women that are falling in love with these male, and they have the male tendency, or the man, what's the word? They have that character, but it's not fully developed.
Right.
They're crying out, and so you have a for example, we counsel a couple, and the husband would argue more with his wife than the wife arguing with him. You know, he would keep malice for like 5, 8, 9, 10 days. How can you not speak to your wife for 10 days, living in the same house? And then when I get deep into the core, I realized that he was raised by his mother. She was a very emotional person. And that's when he started to really kind of, we have this session that we call the peeling of the onion, because that peeling the onion is very hard. So when we talk to couples, we say, okay, we're going to squash it. We're going to take off all the layers so that we're going to get to the core of why we're here. And that's what we started to do with him. And then it was revealed that he was raised by his mother. His mother was very emotional. She was always angry. And so he grew up in an environment where we see that. Now, on the other aspect of that, I think for the male, it's our ego, our testosterone, our alpha male. We don't want to show our vulnerability. And so we are always so big and mighty that, being exposed and shown issues that you're not really doing well in those areas are not always the easiest thing for a man.
No, sir.
If he knows that he's the fault, why counseling is needed, he knows that his character is going to be under assassination, under the microscope. And that's why he isolated himself. Because you and I know, for any man to be open and talk about their problem, it's like pulling teeth in nail. When you talk to a couple, the wife will tell you all the story, and you get one-liners from the husband. Yes, no, and so forth. And so I think that's one of the reasons why it's very difficult. Men are more on the I don't want you to know character, thought process, mindset, rather than just being open and not ashamed about their feelings.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything else left. You said it all. But I actually share the same view with him as far as, why men are the way they are. And I could just rebut and say that, women show emotions all the time. And Herdyne can be a witness to that as a female as well. We are very emotional creatures, but on the other hand, men don't want you to know what they're thinking. They don't want you to know what they're feeling. And especially like my husband says, if they're brought up in a home with just the mom and there's no father figure, it makes it especially difficult for them to express themselves because they don't have that father figure, that male role model to kind of mold them into the man that they should become, and therefore they come up as lacking, and therefore they try to shy away from conversations, which makes it a lot harder for the wife to communicate with the husband, saying this is how I'm feeling, but he doesn't want to talk. She'll open up to him, but he doesn't want to talk. And as far as a relationship goes, it's a two-way street. One person cannot have a conversation. No. So it makes it difficult for the wife. She's going to get frustrated and feel like she wants out, she wants to walk away, she wants a divorce, when all it takes is just a conversation.
Right.
But the man is not opening up because of his upbringing.
Now, Doran, you grew up with your mom. Did you have, I guess, other male figures, or like, because what I understand what you just said, and I get it. Right? It doesn't sound like you went down that road. Something must have happened with you that you were either redirected or you picked up some skills along the way that you are not one of those men.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think, as I said, I gave my life to the Lord at 16 years old. I started to read a lot of books. As you can see, my bookshelf back here. I immersed myself in books. How to Have Confidence and Power in Dealing with People by Les Giblin. I read book on Miles Monroe. You name the authors, self-help book, I got it, like literally. And from about 2000 to now, I read at least 3 books a month, just constantly pouring into myself, just reading and learning more. And I think over the years, I look back and I realize the work that my mother did to really try to be the best mother that she can be. Eventually, she remarried my stepdad. But at that time, I was about 18 years old when my stepfather, my mom married my stepdad. And so he plays a role. I must give him some credit also. And there's a lot of people in the church, a lot of brothers in the church, deacons and pastors that I serve under that helped to groom me. The tutelage from these men have allowed me to realize that I don't have to really become a statistic where there's a lot of baby mama drama because my father was not there, or and that's why I said initially in the interview that who you are is based on your past, but the man or the woman that you become is based on you. I mean, you can go to YouTube, man, and there's so many personal motivational speakers that are doing some phenomenal job. The content are rich, it's very creative, innovative, and people can get the information that they need. I think that as a man, we were created by God to lead, and I think a lot of men are crying out because they're not living at their optimum potential, and it allowing them to take out their frustration on their spouse. They're crying out. They want to roar again. They want to lead again, but no one is there to really guide them along the way. But I think that if we identify what the problem, the first way to solve a relationship issue, my wife and I always talk about this when we do marital counseling, that first you identify the problem. Then once you identify the problem, let's try to figure out what is the solution to the problem and what are some of the different variables to that solution, because not all marriages are created equally. As you guys know as professional, that what you may tailor for this couple may not fit the next couple that coming to you for help. And so what may be good for this brother may not be good for that brother. And so we find out that what happened is that they bring over a lot of the residue of their past into the marriage, and it affects the relationship because of that. Now, for example, I have two sons, a 22-year-old son, and we also have a 16-year-old son. I watch them size up their mother. Like when mom would say, Joan would say, "Oh, guys, go clean up your room," or "Go do this, do your chores," and they would kind of play around, not listen to her, and she would say, "Okay, wait till the dad come home," and that would change their tone. Or if I walk into the room and say, whoa, time out, are you trying to argue with your mom? Are you guys having a conversation, or is this an argument? And right away, their attitude changes. because the authority figure is in the home. She's the nurturer, she's the giver, she is the one that cares. But the father is there as that figure that can whip them back into shape. That's what's missing in most homes. And so you have men that are staying home with their parents till they're in their 30s, their 40s. And some of them, the parents had to really kick them out. So a woman that is very ambitious, very well put together, very well learned, very well educated, pick up a guy that looks good on the outside, have the characteristic of a man, but the core value is not there. And you get into a relationship, and then you realize that there's a lot of character flaw. She want to throw them back into the ocean, but sometimes they're into, children are involved, or they bought a house together or whatever, and so it's hard. And then they look and they say, you know what, well, he's not the man that I marry. Well, actually, he is the man you marry. How can we fix him? How can we help you to influence him now to become a better person? And that's where I believe most of our work is, as it pertains to working with married couples.
Awesome.
Wow.
That was good.
So if, and I mean, as hard as this is to do, we're going to try. If there's one piece of advice you could give, what would it be? Whether to new couples, dating couples, long-time married couples, what is that one piece of advice?
Babe, go first.
Okay, for me, I would say,
Take it away.
I would say, get to know each other. Knowing is very important. And I mean, not every relationship is going to be like ours, where we had a real best friend kind of friendship from the get-go. But when you meet someone, it's best to get to know the person. Get to know the person that you think you're falling in love with. Get to know the person who you think you might engage. Get to know the person who you think you want to marry. You have to just get to know that person individually before you get to that next step.
Yeah. I also believe, that we have to know what we're getting into when we decide to get married. If I can give one sound advice to any couple listening to the sound of our voice, know the difference between love and emotion. if you don't know the difference, you're always going to equate emotion with love.
True.
And that's the big problem in relationship right now. If you feeling sexy, that's not love. That's emotion. You know, love will allow me to show up and perform and do the things that I want to do in my marriage, even though doing it is not easy.
Right. Right.
That's not emotion. That's love. That's decision. Love is not your emotion. The act of love leads to emotion, but love in itself is not emotional. Love allowed me to be faithful to my wife, even though I know that that girl is giving me that side eye. She gives me that look, and I know that she's vulnerable. I know I could take advantage of her, but love allowed me to be faithful in my marriage. Love allowed me to show up and do what is required, even when doing it is not easy. That's love. When we went to college, think about it. We know that there are certain tests and certain exams that we have to do to pass, but we know that it's not fun. That's not passion. That's commitment.
Right.
And that's what we have to begin to see in marriage. We have to see that when we make a decision to love, we make a decision to be faithful, we make a decision to trust, we make a decision to work hard, then all these things that we put together to make love work will lead to that emotional point of the marriage. And that's when our spouse can be really vulnerable with us. That's when sex is better, because your wife can be naked and not ashamed. She can give you not just her body, but her emotion, her will, and she can literally communicate with you sexually like you've never experienced. But if she's vulnerable and she can't trust you with her vulnerability, if he can't be a man around you, his masculinity is been assassinated. You're putting him down. You're calling him name. You're not realizing that you're a partnership and both partners have to work together. If you don't do those things and work on it regularly, then obviously you're going to hear, well, we're not working out irreconcilable differences, which is just dumb for me personally. When somebody tell me they're getting a divorce because of irreconcilable differences, I said, can you name those for me? We give them a legal pad, my wife and I, and said, can you write on all the irreconcilable differences that you really can't figure out? Let's see what those look like. And then we determine if it can fix, you know.
It's a cop out.
Yeah, it's a cop out. Exactly.
But at the end, you got to be willing to do the work. We oftentimes, you know, I think you put so much energy in preparing for that one wedding, that one day, that we're not willing to do the work. We're not willing to check in with a counselor if need be. We call them love check-ins.
Yes.
You know, we're not willing to invest the time to get to know the person that God created for us.
I like that.
You have to be willing to put in the work.
Love check-in. Baby, we can't use that.
It's true. We put the time in for the day of the wedding, like you said, but for the marriage, which is from then onward, we don't spend the time to put the work in.
Like you put in the work in the beginning of your relationship and writing these letters, buying the stamps, sending them from Jamaica. You put in the work when it's time for her to come into the States. You put in the work when you made a decision that you're not going to look at the girls in New York.
Hello.
You know, still putting in the work.
You're still putting in the work.
I'm still putting in the work.
Yeah, you're putting in the work when you know she's upset.
Yes, yes.
But yet you're still communicating with her because you're not dealing with her through your emotions. You're dealing with her through your love.
You're talking good.
And so this is what we talk about. The reality of doing the work is what is going to make the marriage flourish.
Amen. Amen. Awesome. Awesome. She's on a roll.
I'm just a technical guy.
And you know, one of the things that I got from your website when I was looking you guys up, and it's something that is so important, and you're just a great example to this quote, is marriage is not built in a day.
Yes.
Your marriage is built daily.
Yes.
Thank you guys for putting in the work.
Thank you.
Building it daily. But before we go, we want to, how do our listeners get in contact with you? What's your social media handle, website? Let us know.
Yes, they can get in contact with us at After We Say I Do, hashtag After We Say I Do. That's our handle. Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at After We Say I Do. We also on Periscope. We do a lot of live broadcasts on Periscope. That's where actually we got started. And now we're moving into the mainstream where we're doing Facebook Live and Instagram Live, but it's all started on Periscope. And our books are available on our website at afterwesayIdo.com. We are trying to blog more because of our work schedule. I do still have a career as an engineer, and so we're very busy, but we take time out to mentor, to counsel, and to pour into couples. We have a lot of people that we're working with right now. You know, there are people that we're on the verge of getting a divorce, and we work with them, and they're happily ever after infidelity. And that's another thing. I believe that marriage can be restored from infidelity.
We do too.
I really do believe that. I tell folks all the time, you know, because I said when the pain is there, people want to just rush in and just say, you know what, forget about it. But we always try to talk them out of it, because no one can make conscious and relevant decision when they're hurting like that. So we talk them out of that and go to counseling. So we're on social media. You can find us. We're there. We are naked and not ashamed with our content and what we share. We talk about it. We are all about it. We're being it. And I'm so grateful for you guys to have us on your program. We enjoyed it. I'm sure that we probably will be back again soon.
And we can tell that you guys are totally in sync.
Thank you. Thank you.
I can see the love. I can see the love. You know? I can see, Jameson, you're smiling very brightly. So.
I've been smiling from day one.
I see your wife smiling brightly too. It is said that whatever a man invests or withhold from his wife will always be revealed in our countenance. So when you see a wife smiling brightly, then you know the husband is a big investor.
Yes.
He's putting in the work.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is dear to our heart, especially coming from the founders of After We Say I Do. So
Thank you.
It's
guys.
good.
You guys have been lovely. Glad that you guys agreed to be on the show, and I'm sure in the future we will be connecting, whether it's social media.
Absolutely.
It's funny because we were in New York. Was that last year?
Yes.
We were on a road trip. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome. Next time, let's connect.
You never know.
When we come to, when we took vacation, 2016, we went to Disney World for vacation. But we didn't know you guys then.
No.
So, but that's just the way God do things.
Yeah.
But I'm sure this connection will this is a great thing. It's a great networking, and we're helping the kingdom. We're helping people. We're saving marriages, and so I'm always excited about working with anybody that is doing that to help the body of Christ.
Thank you.
Once again, thank you guys. Thank you, Doran and Joan, for being a guest on the Couples Council.
Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, that was Doran and Joan, two lovebirds. They managed to keep it clean for us. Dropping some wisdom, dropping some nuggets.
Some gems, man. I think one of the things that resonated with me is marriage is not built in a day. It's built daily.
Yeah, that's something since we interviewed them, we've been repeating. You might have seen that on some of our social media. Listen, we know we stole it from them. We're borrowing it. But I do love that reminder. Everyone thinks that go see somebody today or have a quick conversation today and then their marriage will be strong. That ain't how it works. You don't know what you're stepping into. It takes daily, hourly, moment by moment, that kind of sacrifice. Another point that jumped out at me about them, they make it a point to put God first in their marriage.
Oh, yes.
If you didn't know that you were listening to the Couples Council, at times you could have sworn you were listening to a sermon, and there's nothing wrong with that. They make it clear that He, God Almighty, is at the center of their marriage, and that has kept them. And the last point I want to make, and Doran touched on this, is love is not an emotion.
That's a whole episode by itself.
A lot of people get it conflated. They get it twisted. It's all upside down, inside out. And you got to remember, guys, love is not an emotion. No matter how much you say it, no matter how much you feel it, it's all in your actions. It's all in the things you do for the person you claim to love. Well, folks, You're listening to the Couples Council.
We want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to rate us in iTunes.
You know where to find us, guys. I'm on Instagram at Dr. Jameson Mercier. Same thing for Instagram and Twitter. You can also find Herdyne at The Wife Mentor across all social media platforms. And like we like to say, if all that's too hard, just go to mercierwellness.com and you can find out everything you need. Thank you for listening. Listen, thank you for spreading. Thank you for sharing. As always, guys, we'll catch you next time on the next episode of the Couples Council.
Hey everybody! Thank you for listening to our mom and dad. If you like them as much as we do, then click subscribe and leave a comment. But now they have to go because it's family time.
So go practice what you heard, and we'll catch you on the next episode.